Twins left. Check Zord. Check Zord. All right, we're going to get Brown. 570. Wide curl on 2.
Brooklyn stack slant strong. Open cannon, Mike Pop.
Hello and welcome to In the Huddle. I'm your host, JT Thomas, broadcasting live from Saberton Station. We're here every Wednesday from 6 to 7. If you don't catch me here, make sure you check me out at thedpost.com. We'll always be there. Guys, we're getting ready to start off and talk about this past weekend. You know, I'm going to make my argument, Alex, on why I thought we had a better chance than we actually had. But I want to ask you, what was the difference in terms of us reviewing this game last week until reality hitting us in the face this past Thursday?
Yeah, I think Trevon Boykin provides a good reality check for the Mountaineers. If we thought we were going to go in and beat TCU, we were going to have to contain him. We weren't able to do that. He's a fantastic player, maybe one of the best in the country, and certainly a Heisman Trophy candidate. But the other thing is we had a lot of key mistakes. You mentioned those young wide receivers. We had several long passes that could have been for scores early on in the game that might have changed the complexion of the game that turned out to be drops. Guys, you get your hands on the ball. If you can touch the ball, it should be a catch. I mean, every receiver will tell you that. And the other thing, early on in the game, we had some big defensive penalties on 3rd and long when we do everything right, 1st, 2nd down, get them in a position where they're 3rd and long, and then we extend the drive with an interference penalty, with a hands to the face mask. I think we had at least 3 or 4 of those in the first half. But, we talked about this. When you play these kind of teams, these upper-level, top-tier teams, you have to almost play flawless football, especially when you go into their place to win. And we were far from flawless on Thursday.
Absolutely. I agree with that so much, Alex. I mean, I'm going to give you my justification in terms of I really thought we had a better chance at beating TCU this weekend than any other point of our 2 series. The fact that, I knew early on that they had lost a lot of defensive players. They seemed to struggle with some of the teams that I thought early on that they should be dominating. They were barely winning games, and I thought the Mountaineers were going to figure it out by the time we got there. And I said, Alex, on this show, to beat TCU, we had to stop one guy, and that was Trevon Boykin. The kid was just dynamic. I mean, it was very hard to keep him in check. I noticed halfway during the game in the first quarter, I kept yelling at my TV, spy this guy, spy this guy. I was all on Facebook and Twitter, spy this guy. And what I mean by spy is locking a linebacker onto him. Doesn't matter where he goes, the linebacker will always drop to the side that the quarterback's on. We did that. We did all of that. And we still could not stop this guy. The guy threw for almost 400 yards on us. Correct. I mean, not only was he good with his passing, he was able to run the ball for nearly 100 yards. I guess in my mind, this whole game really revolved around Trevon Boykin. But I have to say, Alex, and I'm sure you'll point to the guy who complimented him, was that wide receiver, Mr. Doxson.
I thought you were going to talk about our coach complimenting him when he gave him the low 5 on the sidelines after making our defense look bad. But Dotson's just another one of the great Big 12 receivers that we seem to go up against every week. We got another big-time guy next week, so get used to it in this league. If you can't cover people, well, then you can't win football games, and we're not doing a great job covering people. Although Darryl Worley, I think, the coaches recognized, played one of his better games, really kind of bounced back a little bit from a pretty rough stretch he's been having. So hopefully we can be ready for next week.
Gary, I mean, speak to how hard it is and how difficult it is to not only guard an exceptional wide receiver, but then to have a guy like we talked about earlier, almost resemble like a Michael Vick type of guy, where he's moving around. That means you got to hold your guy a little longer. How difficult is it to guard a guy like that?
Well, it's just like going out there and playing 2-on-1 in basketball. That's how difficult it is, because no matter what's going on with the offense, the quarterback and the wide receiver, they know what's going on. They know what the pattern is. They know what the play count is. They have a special relationship. So if you're out there on the island playing defensive back, you have to sort of guess and anticipate their stance. You have to guess and anticipate the down marker, what their tendencies are. But regardless of what's happening, even though most people like to think that you're playing one-on-one, it's actually a two-on-one game. And when you have two great athletes, you have to be on your P's and Q's. You have to be at the top of your game just to compete with those guys. So it's a very difficult match. It's a difficult matchup. It's difficult for us to be asking some of the guys that we have in the secondary to step up to that task, given where we are right now with injuries and given where we are in terms of our overall play in the secondary.
Right, we use the phrase, and I guess a lot of people often hear, the next man step up, that has to be the mentality. Obviously, that's what we always look at. We expect that. However, we got a very, very young secondary. A lot of those guys, although they are reoccurring guys, they're second or third year in the program. And our backups are not the guys that, in my opinion, that can compete right away, and then you put them in a position to be playing against a Trayvon Boykins and a Mr. Dawkins. I mean, it's just a very tall order to ask of our young men. But I have to say, I thought they did a decent job until it just got untenable. But for the most part, going into that game, I kind of felt that if we could just slow them down just a little bit, that we could fare much better than we did. The one big glaring position that I saw that I was concerned about is our linebacker play. We just did not find our way to the football enough for me. As a defensive player, I like to see our linebackers flowing and running to the ball a lot more. And maybe Trayvon probably slowed them down a little bit and making them hesitate. But what do you think about defense overall and specifically linebacker play in an environment like that?
Well, obviously they got to hold down their end, and you talked about spying Trevon Boykin. We don't have a linebacker that can run with Trevon Boykin. We don't have anybody that can truly spy him and provide any pressure on him. But it's the front seven's got to be able to get some kind of pressure. The front six or whatever we have in our 3-3-5. We're not generating any pressure either from the linebackers, from our blitz packages, or from the down linemen. So when you have a guy that skilled that can sit back with receivers that skilled, it really puts the secondary and everybody at a big disadvantage if you can't get some pressure on the guy. Last year, we contained him a little bit, and I think we might have sacked him a few times. We at least hit him a few times, and we didn't even really challenge him on Thursday night.
Right. And the thing about it, what I saw that we did do that I was very surprised by, that we had some forefront. Every now and again, now they wasn't a true forefront where there was a lineman. What they did was bump that outside guy inside and put a guy on that edge, and we rushed the ball a little bit. And I think we did okay when we did. In fact, I like that a lot better. But when we do that, I guess that's when we get hurt, when we don't have any help on the backside of coverage. When we got 7 in the box and we got 4 on the back end, or if we're playing half, I don't know what they're playing back there, but if there's no help on that back end, makes it a tough ball game for us. And Gary, you tell me in terms of, like I said, I like that forefront, but that's less guys in that secondary that are able to cover a whole bunch of receivers running on the Big 12. Is that doable? Are we able to have a forefront, or are we going to be successful mixing it up, forefront, odd front, even front, on the Big 12 moving forward?
As I said last week, I think it's important for us to start trying new things because the things that we're doing right now, they just aren't working. I do like the fact that we did get some pressure last week, but we have to put more linemen in the game. That's just the way that it is. Big 12 is a 12th conference. Not only that, but we don't even know if these guys have the stamina. That's part of the issue. What I go back to our young players. It's a big task to ask for a linebacker to be a good of an athlete to spy Mr. Boykin. The only person in our secondary that I feel that we have had the ability to do something like that would be Dillon. But then you take essentially probably our best defensive back at this point in time, and you pull him out of the secondary to watch the quarterback, and still with all the holes in between the line, you can still get lost in there. I think that we need to pull some of those people out of the secondary, or at least some of those tweener linebacker / safety people, and see what we can get generated in defense and start in terms of pressure. I don't know. It's a hard season right now. It's hard to see, especially from a defensive standpoint. I like what you said, being a former linebacker. I think our linebacker play has fallen off in the last couple of weeks, and I just like to see us getting back to playing defense where we can add some pressure to the quarterback and give our guys a chance.
And let me say this because the aggressive side of me or the defensive side of me, I expect for us to do well. I mean, and I'm sure, and I say aggressive because I'm a defensive player, but offense, they want to score. But I like to see our guys be physical. And when I say physical, I specifically talk about those linebackers.
Right.
I think they're the element that becomes more physical and have more physical play and will excite the ball club if we play accordingly. Nick Katakowski, I thought he did an excellent job running from side to sideline, but he was not in the middle of the field. So if he was on the outside, oftentimes he was isolated from a play where a guy was running up the seam. And then what happened then? What happens, we get KJ Dillon, who is probably overcompensating because he's playing his position and probably worrying about a young corner, gets out of position, and we got a guy running up the seam. How do we combat that in the remaining games in terms of keeping our defense head about them and being prepared to move forward in the Big 12?
So that's a great question because this offense we face on Saturday is as good as probably Baylor and TCU. So it's going to be important that we're able to stop something and make them one-dimensional. I mean, talk about the linebackers being able to be aggressive. If you can't stop anything, if you can't stop the run, you can't stop the pass, you're on the heels all the time, it's hard to be aggressive. And I think that's what it looks like if we're seeing our defense back on their heels. We're unable to make them one-dimensional so we can load up a little bit and bring some heat on the quarterback. But I think that's what's going to have to happen. We're going to have to make Texas Tech throw the ball, which they do very well, but say you're not going to be able to run the ball on us, Texas Tech, so we try and get them in some third and long situations where we can put some heat on this quarterback.
Texas Tech last week put up astronomical points. They put up astronomical points, but I ain't going to jump into them yet. I'm going to make the halftime before I get into them. So just as well as they can put up big points, is WVU going to match opponents for points in the near future? I think we got to find some way. We left 21 points on the field. We're going to have to find a way to match some of these scoring since we know we are so light on defense. Are we going to be able to do that?
Well, there's the possibility because, like you said, we left a lot of points on the field. We had a turnover, which is just like having a rebound in basketball. If I get that turnover, it potentially took points off the board for you. We had some drop passes in our receivers, and so we had the opportunity to put another 21 points on the board. The problem is that we haven't been able to do it week in and week out. We haven't been able to match up, and that's the issue. I think that right now, with this being sort of the midpoint in the season for us, this is where you try to get guys to just play football. Just go out there and play football the way that you know how. Let's get guys like Gibson out there catching the ball, but focusing and sort of speaking about the importance of catching the football, coming down with the plays. That's how you become a big-time player anyway. You make the plays that you're supposed to make because you know you're not going to get as many opportunities. So we have the potential to put the points up. I'd like to see us do it because I'd just like to see us get one of these close games or to get in one of these games where we were the aggressor, we put the most points, and we were the team running up and down the field.
And having Coach Hogerson, and I know there's a lot of chatter going on, but as I mentioned last show, this guy was he had some of the top-ranked offenses in college football. So to me, I kind of know he has it in him. He has the play assortment to be able to get the guys the ball. And like I said, 21 points left on the field. I want to talk about some of the positive. And some of the positive was Wendell Smallwood. Wendell goes in this game. Everybody knows he's a little banged up. Still carries the ball for over 100 yards. The kid just has a lot of resolve and a lot of heart. Goes out there, gives whatever he can for his team. So if you would, let's talk about Wendell Smallwood and what his contribution is to the Mountaineers up to this point.
Well, I think he's probably been our best player on offense.
Yes.
Between him and Shelton Gibson, I think, is really emerging as a good receiver. And we're going to have to continue to develop the running game. And more than anything, I think some of these other guys got to get some confidence about them. We need to start fast. We're falling behind in every game, and I think guys are losing confidence, and you start getting that losing mentality, and used to having bad things happen, and it just kind of snowballs on itself. So, Wendell's been a consistent guy, and I'd like to see some of his confidence and consistency rub off on these other guys. And let's come out, let's win the first quarter next week. Let's not start out playing from behind, making a stupid turnover for a score or something like that. Let's win the first quarter, let some guys get some confidence, let Wendell get in a groove, and hopefully be able to come out on top this Saturday.
Right. What do you got, Gary, about Wendell?
Right now, I think Wendell is, again, our best offensive player, and I would like to see us try to make the running game a focus right now, because what we have right now in our receivers, we have playmakers. Right. We have guys that can catch the ball, guys that can, go deep and make some big highlight plays for us. The problem is they're not consistent. He's the most consistent player on the offense right now. Right. And what's happening in the last, I would say, 3 weeks, the offensive line is becoming probably the second most consistent part of our offense. So if we can get those two facets of the game, or at least the line and Wendell Smallwood going, I think that we can actually kind of bring some of these scoring games down, bring the score down in some of these games. We can now put the pressure on the other teams. If we can get a long drive going, go down the field, score the ball, we put the pressure on them to score quick. And if they don't, then what they'll do? They'll do what we've been doing all year, which is start throwing a lot of 50-50 balls to get back into the game. So I like Wendell Smallwood. I've always been a fan of his since we've been doing this show, and I'd like to see him get the ball more.
We sitting here, and you mentioned a big point in terms of our youth, in terms of our young guys. Let's talk about the most senior guy on this receiving staff is Jordy Thompson. Jordy Thompson has more snaps than any wide receiver that we have on our team. Very, very, very young wide receiver core. So you're going to have some of these challenges. I want to talk about Skylar Howard and how well he did, although, I guess we heard a lot about, and I know I have, a lot of chatter about decision making when it comes down to third and short. Although he just has to come along. I mean, he has to become smarter about when to throw the ball deep or not. But for the most part, he was under, he had one interception, had over 160-yard passing. I think that's a pretty good outing against TCU. Not bad, not something that you're going to write home about, but he wasn't rattled. I didn't see him, he didn't lose control. It didn't seem like this game was over his head. What do you think about Skylar in this game?
I thought he played better. He's limited physically, and I don't think this guy's got a huge arm. I don't think he's a super speedster, so his decision-making is going to have to be his strong suit, and he's continuing to develop that way. Maybe we expected a little bit too much out of Skylar after this first couple games. He's really a first-year guy. He played, 2 games at the end of last season. He's had a spring ball under his belt. So, this is the point in the season where really you'd expect to see some development out of a guy like him. And hopefully Texas Tech, whose defense is worse than ours, one of the worst in the country statistically. I mean, they gave up 70-some points, I think, to, Oklahoma State last weekend. Yes. Hopefully he can get on track. I like the idea of running the ball too, shorten these games a little bit. You got to get a lead to be able to do it. You can't be down 14-0 in the first 30 seconds of the ball game and think you're going to keep handing it off to Wendell Smallwood. But get a lead in these games and shorten the game, run the ball. Don't put all the pressure on Skylar where he's throwing these long bombs on third and short because we're down 2 touchdowns right off the bat.
Right, and I think that's part of the game plan. And what I mean by when I say I think that's part of the game plan is, it seems like when we get in trouble or we feel like we're behind, we start launching the ball. Regardless if we are being productive running the ball.
Right.
I think last year, when we had the show, we talked about how a large portion of the first series we were going down scoring, or at least getting in scoring contention. Yeah. We need to get back to that. Right. I mean, I believe we have the play repertoire to be able to do it. We have to get back to it. And I think a guy like Smallwood is saying, keep giving me the rock. Rain, hail, sleet, or snow, give me the rock. Again, the kid winning the game hurt, played his butt off, over 113 yards, total yards rushing. Again, guys, we have a young team. Don't abandon the ship yet. I mean, there's a lot of football to be played. I feel real good about what our football nucleus is. But let's talk about defense. That's one of the subjects that I'm certainly fond of and wasn't our best outing. And the only thing, I guess, that's important to mention is the youth, and we've talked about the youth in the corner spot. Did you feel like we got beat deep a lot, or was it something manageable or something? Is there anything that could be fixed in terms of how we play in the secondary?
I mean, we're just getting beat right now, and then the truth of the matter is, without being down on our team, we're just not a very good football team right now, and we're not very good in the secondary. And part of it is technique. Part of it is you can see it in their face. Alex mentioned confidence. You know, a lot of things happen. I watched early in the season, and I watched Dylan get in the receiver's face, down in his stance, clapping his hands, challenging this guy. Let's go. Let's go. It's third and short, or it's third and 10. Let's go. Now I don't see that from these guys anymore. They're moping with their heads down. They're looking a little bit confused. There's no real leadership out there, and I don't see it from the linebacker spot, because generally that's where we see it, from either that middle linebacker, the guy who's calling the plays, or from one of those safeties. You know, the defensive linemen, they talk amongst themselves, and they try to make plays happen that way. But right now our guys just aren't doing it. So I still say that we have the talent, but it's the inconsistency of young players. And I'll tell you, when I was a young player during the '96 season, and I was backing up Van Washington, I didn't want to go in the game. I was watching the #1 defense play, and I was having a good time doing it. So there were some weeks that I wasn't really prepared to play until maybe someone got hurt in the game on Saturday, and then I knew Monday I was going to have to prepare for that week because I could potentially be the starter. So then, my mindset changed. So in thinking about our secondary guys, or just our team in general, we've mentioned before, how are these guys preparing, and what do they look like 5 minutes before the game? And to me, I have a suspicion that preparation isn't all there during the week, and maybe 5-10 minutes before they run out to the field, they're still not mentally ready to play football.
You know, Gary, I use just one phrase. I used to say this to my son all the time as a linebacker. I say, as a linebacker, especially that middle linebacker, you have to step out on that field and like you the baddest SOB on the field.
Right.
Be ready to knock down anything that moves. You got to have that type of mentality.
Because we've been beat down, really largely uncompetitive in these last 4 games, except for the Oklahoma State game, which we really gave away. So what's our team's psyche? What type of confidence are they going to have going into this game? This is a game where we should be able to score some points. Texas Tech's defense, like I said, is awful, but it's another high-powered, top-rated offense, one of the top 5 offenses in the country, I think. So it's real important for our guys to believe in themselves, believe they can win, and I think the best way to do that is, get a fast start, have something good happen in the beginning, get a turnover, have a return for a touchdown, or stop them, get a 3 and out. We haven't been able to stop anybody for a month now, so I'll be interested in seeing if we can get a few stops on defense and put the ball in the end zone, get our guys a little bit of confidence, give them some reason to believe themselves other than the coach telling them they're good.
Right, and that's the key. We look at that, and we all know in this room that baddest person on the field before he got injured was Carl Joseph.
Yeah.
And he just kind of, Carl had gotten to a point where he didn't even have to act like it. Mm-hmm. You just knew when he walked out there, he was going to put a licking on somebody and was going to start the chain reaction. Well, listen, I'm going to start the chain reaction right now and get ready to give you another trivia question. Guys, I want to remind you, we are here every week at Saberton Station from 6 to 7. If you don't catch us here, make sure you check us out at thedpost.com. Look on the football section. We'll be there. Guys, it's that time again. We're going to give out these coaches, and this time I may exercise my old quarterback arm. Listen to the question closely. Listen to the question closely. The question is, how did we win our last game against Texas Tech? I'm going to give you some multiple choice answers. You can't answer anymore. The questions are, we ran a touchdown, we threw for a pass, we scored an extra point, or we made a field goal. Raise your hand if you have the answer. Raise your hand. The question, the last time we played Texas Tech, how did we win the game? We either won it by running a touchdown, passing it a touchdown, making an extra point, or a field goal. I think we got a right answer.
Field goal.
Field goal. You are absolutely right. Thank you for being a team player. You're going to win this koozie. Anybody back there can catch.
You don't catch it, you don't get it.
Anybody can catch. Now, this is the third pass this week. Sign her up. Sign her up. Hey, I tell you what, Coach, if you came down here at the Suburban Station, At Saberton Station, you get you some receivers. Because every week, someone in our audience has caught one of my passes. Every week. So again, if you want to find these receivers, make sure you come down to Saberton Station. We're here from 6 to 7 every Wednesday. If we're not here, go check us out at thedpost.com. Guys, we're at the halfway point. We're going to start talking exclusively Texas Tech. Let's talk about Texas Tech. Texas Tech is having, I think they're what's their record? 3-4?
5-4.
5-4 right now. And I'll tell you why they're 5-4. They got an excellent quarterback, Patrick Mahomes, throw for 25 touchdowns, averaging 370 yards, have 3,300 yards total passing offense so far. The kid's on a pace. Guys, this kid, I sit back, although they lost the game last week. Tough game. The score was 70, 50 something?
53, yeah.
70 to 53. When you think about those types of numbers, overall there was over 1,200 yards of total offense. 1,200 yards of total offense in a football game. That's a lot of offense, Alex.
I don't understand it. Yeah. I mean, Coach Gibson says we don't even think about shutting down teams anymore. And I said, yeah, with the kind of defense that's played in the Big 12, you don't shut down teams. But you know, they're fantastic on offense. I watched the better part of that game last week, and the quarterback's a dual threat guy, can throw it, run it. He's confident. They're scoring a lot of points. Scored 53 points on a decent Oklahoma State team that we had trouble scoring on. Hakeem Grant, I believe, is their big-time receiver that broke loose for a couple touchdowns against us last year. He's also a top-notch return guy. They got a top-notch running back. And they got athletes all over the field at every position, particularly on the offensive side. You know, defensively, where we're going to exploit them if we're going to win this game. But it's going to be another huge challenge for our defense to stop this Texas Tech team, or even just slow them down, because nobody has yet.
You know, when we played them last year, as I mentioned, the score was 37-34. We won the game with a field goal. I'm almost thinking, if we don't take control of this game early on, we may be looking at another game that's decided by field goal. Again, a win is a win, but if we don't take care of business early, this could really be a shootout in our backyard. Gary, what can we do to prevent a shootout here in Morgantown with this Texas Tech team?
Well, let me be the first to say that I don't want another shootout. I do not want our team right now in a shootout with anybody. I don't think we are consistent enough on offense to score every time the other team scores. What we can do to prevent, though, this from becoming a shootout or to taking more control is, as I said earlier, let's continue to beef up the run game. And let's not forget, I'm a big Smallwood fan, but guess Russell Shell is also a capable back. And so we can do things where possibly we have both of those guys in there at the same time, or if Smallwood is versatile enough, we can put him out as maybe one of those slot guys, try to get him the ball in some space if he's able to catch it. So right now, I just hope that we can just slow it down a little bit, get some more runs in there, probably go a little bit, I would say maybe 60-40 run right now, at least to start off the first quarter, just to see what it looks like. But I don't want us to get into a shootout. I don't want us to get challenged in that way right now. I want us to do something that's going to build and boost our confidence, and maybe just go down there with a long, maybe 5-minute, 6-minute play drive and go ahead and score a touchdown and get ready to come back in there for the next series.
You know, I sat back, and as we talk about time of possession, I think about, if I can jump back for a second, I did the breakdown on time of possession per quarter. TCU had the ball for 9 minutes per quarter. That was real good ball control and clock control, you know. And I think you're absolutely right to say we have to find our run game to be able to manage that clock and manage, for the most part, dictate how we want to play this game.
That's right.
We cannot allow them to come in throwing the ball all over the place. And if they throw it, we got to be able to manage the ball on the field.
That's right.
So I agree with that 100%. It's going to be very important that we find ways to get the ball to our running backs. And, you know, I know you and I dislike that swing pass.
That's right. That's right.
Gary and I both just dislike that swing pass. but we may have to use it. I mean, we have to control the time of possession going in this game. What do you think about that in terms of controlling the time of possession?
Well, we got to score points too. I mean, it's not enough just to hold the ball because we've dominated time of possession in a couple games and come out on the wrong end of things. But yeah, I mean, that's definitely something we're going to have to do to shorten the game because Texas Tech, they get a lead on us, they're going to tempo us, and we definitely do not want to be in a shootout with Texas Tech. We can't score 53 points against air at this point, so we're going to have to be able to run the ball. Smallwood got to have to hold on to the ball. We're not going to be able to have any turnovers against this team. Shorten the game a little bit, make it a little more manageable on offense, and hopefully just get enough stops so we can come out ahead. I don't care if we're winning by a field goal or what. We need anything we can get with a W in front of it, regardless of what the score is.
Right. One thing we can't do, though, we can't, and I hope our guys realize that we can't come out desperate. We can't be desperate. We have to go in and look at this part of the season as the next game as a new opportunity to entertain our fans and bring home a win. Guys, don't overthink this. I talked to one of the players today, and it just seemed like he wanted to do more. He wanted to do more. Do what you can do. It's going to come. When you start forcing and doing too much, that's when you seem desperate. That's when you're going to cause yourself more problems than what it's worth. Texas Tech is just another team. In fact, it's another team that's struggling in the Big 12 just as we are. So again, we have to look at this as a new opportunity to entertain our fans and bring home a win. I feel real good about our defense against Texas Tech. I mean, as we continue to talk, with that quarterback they got, they just had total over 600 yards total offense. I see them trying to throw the ball. How do we stop it? How do we stop? Because I want to give you my thoughts on how we stop a team like that.
Well, I want to make a couple comments just to feed off of what Alex said. First and foremost, we do have to score the ball. No matter how long we're holding the ball, we do have to put some points on the board. I'm also a little bit worried about our defense, I like our guys. I like who we have. I like our talent, but we just have not been able to put it together. And I have to just look at this point in time, what's the body of work? And what I've seen over the course of the season, besides the first two games, it hasn't been very good. The other part that makes me a little bit nervous is looking at Texas Tech and recognizing that they're number one in the Big 12 in scoring offense. That's a big thing for me right now. They're also in scoring offense third, rushing offense sixth, passing offense first. I mean, and I look at our numbers, and we're sort of middle of the road, fifth, sixth, third in many of those categories. So I feel like it's still going to be another challenge for us. And they've got guys. They have the running game is beyond the 1,000-yard mark at this point in the season, which you have to, give them credit for. But same thing receiving. They have a receiver that is approaching 1,000 yards. So he's got 957. I think he's 5 yards behind Coleman. To put it in perspective.
The Grant
so
guy.
yes, so Mr. Grant is 5 yards behind Coleman for Baylor, and we know how good that guy is.
Right.
Dotson's another guy he's leading the pack at 1,250 yards on the season. So I'm a little bit nervous about what our defense is going to do against this team. I also remember a couple years ago, or was it last? We went down there and they ran us off the field. Good thing we have them home, and I hope that all of you guys that are out there, the fans that watch the show, the fans that come to the games, I really hope that you guys can look at this season and still be supportive, because we do have a young team. We do have a lot of talent on the team, and I know how it was when I was on the field. I still want you to come out and be supportive, because there's a big difference between 30,000 and 60,000 when you're sitting there and you're trying to play a game in terms of getting hype and getting pumped up for the game. So you guys matter a lot to us. You guys could actually help maybe produce another big play.
The 12th man.
The 12th man, a couple big plays for us. So, I mean, I just look at this right now is the midway point, and we have to look at it as like we're playing a new season.
Gary, you make a great point. I said, guys, I'm on your message boards. I'm on your Facebook pages. I watch you just as much as I hope you watch us. And, again, there's a lot of angst out there about our team. Keep it all in perspective. Realize that we're a very young team that are taking lumps right now, and that we can get through the fire. We'll be just fine. We'll be just fine. Now I want to just share with you, and again, not a coach. That's my disclaimer. But I want to talk about what we've done in terms of defense for the last couple of weeks. Early on, we like our 3-3-5. On the back end, when we played, I forget who we played. I think it was Oklahoma. Yeah, Oklahoma. We wanted to stop the run. So we locked. Well, last year we were worried about we locked up and went man.
Right.
Last year we went man, locked up on those receivers. They was running the lanes on us, right? So this year we shut that down by playing some sort of man zone type deal, and was able to play those runners. And then last week we played TCU. As I just mentioned, we saw some 4-man rush every now and again. So now I think we got to put it all together. We got to do a little bit of 4-man rush. We got to do a little bit of man coverage. We got to do a little bit of all right now to be able to give our guys the best chance to be successful on that football field. Now that may sound challenging, and I may sound like I don't even know what I'm talking about. But in my mind, how I see it, every guy is accountable. You have to put the players in a position where every guy realizes that I am accountable. If I got a 4-man rush, that means, and I'm used to rushing 3, somebody got to come free. I saw a few times where we were blitzing, and all I could think in my mind was, get home. Right. Get home. If I'm going blitz, I gotta get home. That's all I can think about. As a linebacker, as a defensive guy, if I go blitz, I know I'm putting somebody on the island. I know my coach is thinking in his head, get home. If I send you, you have to get home. When you don't get home, you cause a problem from everybody. So again, I go in this game thinking, hey, we managed this game well in terms of possession. Our defense, we need to put together some sort of defensive scheme that makes every guy on that field accountable. And then I think offensively, these guys will come along. I think these guys, as I said, I spoke to one the other day that seemed like he wanted to do more. It'll come to it. Alex, talk about what it feels like to be an offensive guy and you're a receiver, tight end guy. When you in that, I want to almost speak to that guy who feels like he needs to do more as an athlete.
Well, I think this gets back to what's the psyche of our team right now. We can't have guys out there pressing too hard. Everybody has to be accountable. They got to go out and win their one-on-one matchups and not worry about doing too much. But, really it's just beating the guy in front of you, beating the guy that's out there in front of you and doing what you're supposed to do within the scheme and playing your game. If we get behind again, and that's what I worry about, this team's down on its confidence. Really down on its confidence, and if we get behind again early on, I worry that this thing's just going to snowball, especially against our defense. Defense is really taking its lumps, and the offense hadn't exactly been setting the world on fire either. So I just like to see the guys get some confidence come out there. Those young receivers catch those balls that they were dropping last week, have something good happen early on, because we're really at a we've already shown that we're not at the top of the Big 12. We're not ready to play with those guys, and that's life. We have 5 more games left. We still have a whole lot of season, still can do some good things. So, get a few wins, get on a little bit of a roll here. We can still make a decent season out of this. And, this is the turning point. This is the game, I think. If we don't get this game, I can see things really, really going south from here for the rest of the year.
All right, I hear you. Guys, I want to just reiterate before we go into answering these email questions I got. Gary, I want to just mention one thing, and you just tell me if this is, because Alex, you kind of went in on also. Having fun. And I'm not talking about getting all hyped and jumping all around. I mean genuinely going out on that field and having a great time. The guys you played with who are part of the #1 defense in the nation, Aaron Beasley, Charles Emmanuel, Van Washington, Mike Logan. Now you tell me if them guys didn't have fun when they were out on that football field.
It's fun when you're good, because when you're good, you can dominate an opponent. And so what I would do, or what Baron Green and I would do, is we try to create ways that were fun. Wasn't always maybe right, but we create some things that were fun, because if we knew we were at a disadvantage, or if we felt nervous about the game, then what we do is you try to get some of that out. And on defense, you can take that out on the people in different ways. You catch a lineman standing around the pile. You catch a receiver walking back to them. You do those kind of things to get those jitters out, But what we're missing, besides the fun, is that meanness. I remember I had a coach at Cincinnati, was our strength and conditioning coach. And I remember when he used to train us, he used to always say, Tompkins, be meaner than cat piss. And the first time I heard that, I was like, what? But when you think about it, if you ever smelled cat piss, that is some of the meanest stuff you've ever smelled. And that's what he meant. You got to be tough, dirty, nasty like that. And so our defense isn't showing it. The linebackers aren't filling holes like that. The secondary is no longer hitting since Carl Joseph is gone. And so you got to have a bunch of mean guys that's going to say, I'm not going to take it anymore. So, I mean, you know, such is life right now. Like what Alex said, you know, we're at another point in the season. We've got 5 games left. I just like to see us get a little bit meaner. And the other thing I wanted to comment on is it sounds like from the 3 of us, we miss some of the old style of football.
Yeah.
Ball control and tough defense, because that's what we keep talking about.
Right. You're right. Guys, at this point, as I mentioned, guys, every week we're here at Saberton Station from 6 to 7. If you don't catch us here, make sure you check us out at thedpost.com. And as I said earlier, you can always send us an email at inthehuddle@thedpost.com. I want to read an email we got today, and this email comes from old Mountaineer, Dorian Cook. The famous Dorian Cook, who ran a touchdown back and dived on the Orange Bowl mascot. Dorian asked this question, said, and Alex, you were heading right into it. He said, what are the possibilities of WVU reaching the national championship within the next 10 years?
I say women's soccer has got a good chance, but it isn't going to happen for the Mountaineers this year. You know, we've obviously shown that we're not ready to compete at the top of the Big 12, and that was the question. You know, I didn't expect us to come out and win it every year, but, you know, are we ready to make that next step? Well, we're going to be a contender for a Big 12 championship, and we're not there, and I don't see the guys on the roster right now to do it. I don't think we have a top-level elite quarterback on this football team that I've seen yet. I mean, I think this guy could be serviceable that we have right now, and we can win some games if he continues to improve. But, you know, in order to be a national championship type football team, you have to have elite level quarterbacks on the team, and, you know, all the other pieces in place as well. And I certainly don't see that in the foreseeable future that this team's going to be capable of it, not with this quarterback.
Right. I agree. What you got, Gary?
10 years? I mean, anything can happen in 10 years. I don't even,
10
you know,
years.
I like the guy. I don't like the question. 10 years, a lot of things could happen. We're going to have none of the players that are playing now are going to be here, and there's a chance that maybe not some of the coaches at least. You know how, I remember when I came in, Coach Nealon told me, look at the guys around you. By the time you graduate, a few of these guys aren't going to be here, and that's the truth, and that's just in the 4-year, 5-year time span.
Right.
So in the matter of 10 years, of course, 10 years college football can change dramatically. Whoever's on top right now may be, you know, 25th, 50th ranked team. So yes, we definitely have a chance to win a national championship in 10 years. So does the other 118 teams.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
I played in one, by the way.
I
1989, I guess. A long time ago.
That's all right, you did it.
I was on the kickoff return team. That was my claim to fame.
And to your point, the elusive national championship for WVU. We played in one. We got very close. We got so close to one we could smell it.
A couple of them.
Exactly.
2 or 3.
And it has yet, it has always escaped us. But to Gary's point, anything is possible.
Yeah.
Anything is
but
possible.
you look at any of those teams that we had that were at that level, we always had an elite quarterback. You know, we had Major Harris for the run that I was involved in, and you know, Jake Kelchner and Darren Studstill were the dynamic duo in 1993. And of course, you know, Pat White was a Heisman Trophy guy, and I think you got to have that guy at the head of the offense in order to be able to compete at that level.
Okay, I got another question. This question comes from Monty Lester. Monty was one of the first emailers that sent us a question when we first started, and it's a long one, so I'm going to try to break it up. He says, I don't know what the climate or the feeling is in Morgantown area concerning the current ongoing status of the program going forward. Nevertheless, do you think Coach Hoganson is the right fit for our program? If not, when does WVU make the change? All right, you want to take that one first?
I'm going to take that because honestly, I felt like that was a question that we were going to have coming pretty soon. I think people want to hear from the players, what do we think about Coach Holgorsen? And I'm going to go ahead and be fair. I don't know if Coach Holgorsen is the right fit for us or not. You know, that remains to be seen. But there are things that we have to look at and factor into. I like the fact that the fans are out there complaining about where Mountaineer football is at, because what that tells us is they have an expectation for our team. They have an expectation for WVU football. An expectation that was raised when Coach Rodriguez was here. A lot of consistency within the top 10, top 15 teams. In the last few years, what we have are 6-6, 7-5 records. And if you're an elite team, that's not acceptable any longer. To be fair to Coach Holgorsen, okay, you have to look at his system and his guys, okay? And so Coach Rodriguez's system was different. He knew who he wanted to plug into that system. Now, Coach Holgorsen, like it or not, is playing football essentially the way the rest of the Big 12 is playing football and trying to grab recruits from the same area. So we're not getting the same recruits. But if you're going to look at whether or not Coach Holgorsen needs to stay or not, then you have to give him a chance to play with his guys that he recruited for his system, that he felt was coachable in the way that he could mold them. And so with that being said, I don't think you look at Coach Holgorsen being someone that we look to fire or to replace in the next couple of years. I feel like you got to give him at least 1 or 2 more years before you can look at him and say, okay, we gave you as many opportunities with your guys the way that you said. Now we have to look at changing.
Yeah, and I think program turnover change at this point is scary too. I mean, you're going to set the program back 2 or 3 years. You know, by most accounts, our recruiting has been pretty good, except at the quarterback position. We haven't had that exceptional guy. You know, you put Trayvon Boykin on our team. Or, you know, a couple of those other guys, Seth Russell, those elite quarterbacks, put them on our team, and, you know, what's our record? We're 5-2, 6-1 maybe, instead of 3-4 the other way around. So, you know, we're a couple players, particularly at that quarterback position, away from, you know, I think really changing the feelings about Coach Holgorsen and his tenure at Morgantown. But, you know, I think, you know, he's going to have to finish strong this year to quiet the boo birds down a little bit. People calling for his head, and but even if we don't finish with a winning season, I think it's too soon to cut the cord on him. He gets another year no matter what.
You hear that, guys? I agree with my panel. I'm gonna keep it short and sweet. I agree with my panel. Well-spoken men. They did a great job. Now I want to go ahead and pass the mic on to you guys. If you have a question, raise your hand, and we'll do our best job to answer a question for you. Don't be shy.
How do you expect them to win with all these penalties they're making and losing the turnover battle every week?
Great point.
I don't. We're not going to win, especially against the good teams with the kind of penalties we had. Those first 2 or 3 penalties on defense in the first half of that game really just sucked the life out of not only the defense, but me. It's like I wanted to turn the game off at that point. And when you see Nick Kwiatkowski, our senior veteran linebacker, I think they blitzed him on a 3rd and long, and he sticks his hand up in the guy's face. Yeah, it kills you when we had a 3 and out, we had to stop. So, you know, we're not going to win if we continue to have these kind of penalties in those critical situations like that. And, you know, the turnover bug is hopefully behind us a little bit. We only had 1 in the last game, right? I think so. We can't win playing with the kind of mistakes that we're making.
Yeah, I mean that's essentially absolutely right. I mean, you just can't win ball games with penalties. It's all about discipline. Football players are taught to be disciplined. Whenever you break discipline, bad things always happen. It's really just that simple. And you have to win the takeover ratio. You know, one thing I kept saying, and for those of you who watch my Twitter account, all game long, all I was saying was, play with urgency. Start scripting the ball now. Don't wait till the 4th quarter to start scripting the ball out. You got to do that in the 1st quarter. You know, we got to start playing with that type of urgency. So to answer your question, I agree. You cannot win ball games if you're not winning the turnover battle and if you're not controlling penalties. What you got, Gary?
We're 9th in 3rd down conversions, 1st in penalties. We're pretty high up there when it comes to turnovers as well. That's a mark of what we're putting out on the field. And I don't mean bad talent, just young players. Young players make those kind of mistakes. This point in time in the season, guys are tired that were just in high school last year. They may be missing home a little bit as the weather changes, it gets a little cooler. So there's a lot of factors that play into that. And I just think that's indicative of what we're putting on the field right now. Not that those guys aren't accountable, but as the years pass, and hopefully as the rest of the season passes, we'll see these guys get better at this, as we've already seen. So as of right now, no, we can't win with that, but I expect us to get better.
All right. Guys, I want to thank you all for coming out. Certainly want to thank my host and my co-host for coming out. And guys, make sure you check us out every week here at Saberton Station. If we're not here, just check us out at thedpost.com. And always send your emails to inthehuddle@thedpost.com. And even to sweeten the pot up, if you go view this video on Thursday, which is tomorrow, and comment in the section, you can win you can win a chance at winning a $100 Visa check card. Again, you can win a chance at winning a $100 Visa check card every week. Guys, until then, huddle up.